The scope of this video will only cover the Lloyd's Photo Eye Polybag, model RK46C.DL3/4P200M12. Other photo eyes, although similar, will have different connections, setup, or application specs that may not be applicable to this video. The goal of the Polybag photo eye is to detect slim objects on the conveyor belt. Previous photo eyes had trouble detecting irregular shape objects, namely polybags. This setup video includes instructions on physical alignment of the photo eye and reflector, as well as teaching the sensor for low-to-conveyor items. When the solution is aligned and taught, there is increased accuracy detecting irregularly shaped objects and polybags on the conveyor belt. Let's look at how to best align the sensor and reflector for a minimum 5mm object size. Start by mounting the sensor and reflector opposite of each other across the conveyor belt. The center point of the reflector should be directly across from the sensor. The supplied mounting brackets help ensure the reflector and sensor remain perpendicular to the conveyor. Note you must securely tighten down both reflector and sensor to the brackets, and then tighten down the brackets to the extrusion to prevent any tilt or movement in the X or Y direction. The maximum working distance between the sensor and reflector is 1.5 meters. Step 1. Mounting the reflector. Position part B from the alignment set in front of the reflector. Use the short side to check that the height of the reflector is 30mm above the conveyor. Secure the reflector's height to be slightly above the height of part B's short side. Step 2. Mounting and aligning the sensor. Place part A from the alignment set in front of the sensor. Part A is used to ensure that the sensor's light beam is aligned parallel to the conveyor. Using part A short side as the base, place it around 30mm from the light beam. Use the long side to check the correct orientation of the light beam. The height of the light beam is divided into two segments with a small gap in between the beams. Match the placement of the light beam's gap with the gap in part A's frame. The extrusion height will need to be adjusted to match the gap placement since the new photo eye bracket has no vertical adjustability. The light beam emanating from the sensor is now parallel to the conveyor. Step 3. Aligning sensor and reflector with one another. The next step is to align the sensor and reflector with each other. Going back to part B, flip the part's orientation so that the tall side with the black line and reflective foil is upright, facing the light beam. Adjust the sensor position so that the light beam is completely under the black line on part B. Note, it's okay if the light beam is touching the conveyor. Now that the light beam is aligned, remove the alignment brackets from the conveyor to get ready to teach the sensor. Step 4. Teach the sensor. Teaching the sensor adjusted sensitivity. Press and hold the teach button on the sensor for 2 to 7 seconds to detect objects that are greater than or equal to 5mm. This is equivalent of setting the sensitivity to 11%. This is the standard sensitivity. For larger objects that are greater than or equal to 10mm, press and hold the teach button for 7 to 12 seconds. This is equivalent of setting the sensitivity to 30%. Step 5. Verification. Now that the photo eye is aligned, it's time to verify that it switches states when the beam is broken. Test the sensor with the smallest object typically used on site to make sure they will be detected in the entirety of the photo eye beam across the conveyor. For example, if your smallest object is a flat pack or polybag, then your verification step should include those products. The photo eye sensor is now aligned, sensitivity adjusted, and is ready for use.